When we sit down and think about the ways we can understand our community as a whole, there are at least 3 different perspectives to observe it through. Hi everyone, this is Zyly and welcome to today's video. As we walk our way in this community, we can observe certain behavioral patterns repeated over and over, like socializing, or some other times having a workplace etiquette and organizing our hobbies. Most of these occur, or at least I see they happen because of this, for the simple fact that we learn to move around online on our own. Yeah, but what's that supposed to mean? Let me dump it down a little with this example. You don't cross the streets without looking first, and you don't talk to strangers outside because your parents taught you so. What I mean is that you had someone guide you as you grew up out of the internet. But online, that's a different story. We learned to go about there as we grew up, and there wasn't an adult 24/7 checking on us as we made our way through. This is similar to what happens when we grow up in the furry community and we make our life all about it. Since we learn our practices differently, some of us might now struggle to find a certain balance to keep the furry life and the regular life. So let's shed a little light on the matter. One really appealing phenomenon that happens within the furry fandom, and in any fandom practically, is the fact that because we share likes with other people, we are very likely to find friends easier once you're part of a community. If you happened to be like me when I was a child and had some issues making friends, you most likely found a niche online. Such comfort zone, name it DeviantArt, Fair Affinity, or even Tumblr, it's home to thousands of community, most of which generally cross roads with each other. In the tough endeavor to make friends, we engage in meaningful conversation and eventually we make the friends we so much sought in the first place. The furry fandom is one of the greatest fields for friendships to grow. And once we start hanging out with the people we met online, our lives change, either for good or for bad. However, from someone who has been part of the community for quite a long time, life takes unexpected turns, and we might focus only on the group of friends that shares the most common interests, being this one, the furry fandom most commonly. Of course, we will struggle to interact with other contexts that don't share much, and through this practice of selecting who to talk with, we automatically isolate non-furry relationships, which is, in the long run, a negative thing to do. I know this is not the case for everyone in the community, but at least I have observed this happen in repeated occasions. If you're someone who doesn't find it difficult to actually build solid relationships, you might not face this type of issue. But for the common standard furry, the guy who just made a life around the fandom and only finds it comfortable if they are surrounded by other furries, this selected isolation becomes a normal practice. Now, with the passing of time, we will see the connections we had with the outside world will be completely lost as a consequence, and we might find ourselves interacting with like-minded people, which in turn will trigger off 2 possible scenarios. The first one being accepting our fate and be happy, but the other one might bring along the sensation of stagnation and eventually the idea of becoming jaded with the fandom, making us consequently feel rather fed up with what we have. It is here that striking a balance between non-furry and furry friends seems to be the soundest of choices, since we will have both the fuzzy part of life and the regular part of life. This balance will prevent the feeling of staleness, and in turn it will make us value what we have, since we can find solace in the variety of our connections. Or to say it in a more normal way, we will enjoy the beauty of not always seeing the same old faces if we mix the furry life and the rest of our lives. And believe it or not, this can also reach our professional lives too. Though on a totally different note, in order to talk about how work life can be balanced with our furry side, I can only think of a vision that entails 2 types of jobs. On the one side, I can take traditional jobs like teaching, where in most cases your boss might be a little conservative, like it is my case, yet on the other hand, more untraditional jobs like IT or gaming developing offer more open-mindedness for you to explore your personal life a little bit more. Let's take the example of teaching, as I know that very well myself. In order to understand any practice, you should never take the word context for granted. This word will allow you to understand the hows and the whys of the actions taken in any place you see. Knowing this, you might understand that this profession requires dealing not only with the content that you teach, but also the kids and their lives, their parents and their own perception on both you and your practices, and last but not least, the view of your directors on you and your practices. So the underpinning of these three elements combined might give you a clearer outlook to understand the words of my head teacher when my furry life was found in school. She said, and I quote, "I don't want parents complain about you because I don't want to explain something I don't understand and that I do not want to understand." I still remember that to the day. Yet there's a positive side to it. Students understand, and they, at least in my context, they sympathize with my furry life. In fact, they like it, but then again, the ideal situation is that your furry life should never coincide with your professional life here, at least. Since the people above are conservative, that leads me to the other point I wanted to make on this matter. The more open-minded a field is, the more freedom you have to exploit your furry side. We know for a fact that furries are everywhere. In fact, the whole internet infrastructure is run by furries, but that is what is visible to the outside world. This field is open-minded, so it's very likely that people talk about it and people see it. Your boss won't care about you dressing up as a giant animal provided that you do your job. Different is the case of my field, for example, where unfortunately looks matter, and conservative superiors won't allow their image to be damaged by a random dog online. Ridiculous though it might seem, right? Notwithstanding this sad scenario, I found a way to express myself and sort of strike a balance between my furry life and my professional life. The answer relies on the eye of the observer, as I love saying, and therefore I have found a way of expressing myself in the clothes I wear. In case you find yourself in a similar situation, this might come in handy for you too. I love my persona, and I believe that it is an extension of myself. I am sure that most furries feel the same towards their personas, since they are basically another version of themselves. So, to attend this need I had, I found comfort in dressing with the colors of Zyly, my fox persona. I always wear bordeaux, light blue or yellow hoodies following my color palette, and beige or black for trousers, so that I can combine the colors appropriately. As I said before, if you are not a very close observer, you might not notice, but I bring my furry life into the common world quite often, and I can feel both worlds are peace with each other. Again, this is my way of finding balance, but others might have different perspectives and techniques. The best part of this is how creative we can get in order to live our lives and shape our world to our own necessities. Which, in turn, leads me to the last topic, our hobbies. We need to understand a crucial notion before delving into this last idea, and that is that the furry fandom is a hobby, not your whole life. I know that for some, their furry way of living might be the only thing they have, or what they found most adequate given their context, but it is clear that it shouldn't be so much like that. I believe the fandom is like your favorite food. If you have it every day, it starts losing its special feeling, and with time, we just don't want it the way we used to. When we focus too much attention in something, that one thing we like so much might start losing its spark. That is, we will love it at first, but we need to take breaks. Having something for too long is not good. We need to add variety to our lives so that we can enjoy it without overwhelming ourselves in the process. Having the same thing for too long, most of the time, we'll end up feeling stale and repetitive. Yet the question remains then, why doesn't the furry fandom feel like this? I must acknowledge that sometimes there are furries who get fed up with the fandom and they feel the need to leave for a while. And listen, that's perfectly fine. If we see someone socially struggle, we need to support them, at least by understanding the way they are coping with the stress. Yet, in most cases, this doesn't happen that much. But why? The answer to this riddle might rely on the idea of the fandom as a hobby itself. The furry fandom has grown to an extent where the status of it just being a hobby has gone beyond the term itself. The furry fandom is now a community, and as such, subgroups have developed within it. It is common then to see, for example, motor furs, railway furs, space furs, among many others. And as a social species, we humans find our way to relate with people who share a common interest. Then it's only logical that if we share more than one interest, we will likely join a certain group. This herd mentality has provided green lands for the development of these sub-communities, which in turn serve the furry fandom in terms of diversification. Don't you feel the world can be a little dull without variety? Well, the fandom is a small world, and this diversity is what keeps it going. We not only share our love for the furry community, but by amalgamating it with other hobbies, we can create this sense of belonging and renewal, qualities which make us feel part of something special. That is the last type of balance we need to seek in order to keep our furry life and our regular life together. So, what could be said after these 3 precise points? Well, the way I see it is that you should go with your life and enjoy your time in the fandom. Enjoy your friends, enjoy your job, and your hobbies too. You are the writer of your story, and it is your responsibility to do it well. Or not. Remember that we are not gods. We make mistakes, and that's part of being human. That is part of learning. Hadn't it been for the mistakes I made in the past, I would have never learned any of what I have shared in this video. Mistakes are what makes this world so unique, and learning from them is what shows that we have come of age. Make friends, help them, but most importantly, go about your business as usual. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, make sure to put your thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. If you want to share any experience in the furry fandom, please feel free to drop it down in the comments. And if you don't have any, you just can comment an emoji of your favorite animal, just for the sake of engagement. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys to see you in my next one. So take good care of yourselves and see you guys. Yeah.